Music. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 spacecraft took a picture that amazed the world. On the surface of Mars in the Sidonia region, a huge face appeared to stare back, carved into the red planet itself. At first, NASA said it was just a trick of light, but over the years, clearer images showed not only the face, but also nearby shapes that looked like pyramids, walls, and even what seemed like a whole city hidden under the Martian dust. What did NASA really discover in Sidonia? Could Mars have once been more than a lifeless rock? Could it have been home to a powerful godlike species that later came to Earth? Before we begin, let us know in the comments below where in the world you're watching from and what time it is there now. Now, get ready as we uncover what NASA found in the hidden Sidonia region on Mars. Music. On the 25th day of July in the year 1976, NASA's Viking Orbiter 1, part of the ambitious Viking program tasked with exploring Mars, captured a remarkable series of images over a region known as Sidonia, located on the northern plains of the Red Planet. Among these images, one photograph immediately captured the imagination of the world. It appeared to show with uncanny precision what looked remarkably like a human face staring upward from the Martian surface. The face stretched over 1½ m in length and seemed to possess distinct features that resembled eyes, a nose, and a mouth. The sheer size and familiar contours instantly provoked curiosity, fascination, and naturally debate. Was this a quirk of nature, a trick of light and shadow, or something far more extraordinary, an artifact of intelligence from a time long before humanity had walked the Earth? But before we go deeper into the mystery of Mars, I want to thank today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Working late nights on space documentaries means my schedule is often upside down, and good rest is the one thing that keeps me sharp. That's why I use Manta Sleep. Their masks are designed with absolute precision to block out 100% of light, giving you blackout-level sleep whenever and wherever you need it. The material is soft and breathable, and the fit is completely adjustable, so it feels comfortable whether I'm taking a short nap in the middle of the day or getting a full night's rest. Manta Sleep is also all about the pro-nap movement, redefining rest as something to be proud of, not guilty about. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. Rest is fuel. And with the right fuel, I can keep exploring stories from the edge of the universe. And here's the best part. You can try it for yourself today. Just visit mantasol.com and use my code SPACEDUST at checkout to get 10% off your order. So whether you want a quick recharge during the day or deep uninterrupted rest through the night, check out Manta Sleep by clicking the link in the description below. Now, why is the Sidonia finding on Mars so important? To understand the significance of this discovery, it is important to examine the context of how Sidonia was first documented. The Viking missions, Viking 1 and Viking 2, were pioneering spacecraft that provided humanity with its first detailed views of Mars's surface from orbit. Together, they captured a total of 18 images of the Sidonia region, each varying in clarity and usefulness. Out of these 18 images, 7 possessed resolutions finer than 250 m per pixel, providing relatively sharp and detailed views of the terrain. The remaining 11 images were much less clear with resolutions worse than 550 megapixels per pixel, making them largely unsuitable for detailed study of surface features. Within the 7 high-resolution images, however, the timing and lighting of 2 sets was so similar that only 5 could be considered truly distinct observations. It was during one of these observations, specifically an image captured by Viking 1 on the 25th of July, 1976, that the now famous humanoid appearance was recorded. The feature, later dubbed the Sidonian Mesa, measured approximately 2 kilometers in length, equivalent to 1 2/10 m, and was located at 40.75 degrees north latitude and 9.46 degrees west longitude. At first glance, the mesa bore the unmistakable semblance of a human face, complete with eyes, nose, and a mouth, carved not by human hands, but seemingly etched into the Martian landscape itself. Despite the excitement this inspired among the public, the chief scientist for the Viking program, Gerald Soffen, initially dismissed the striking resemblance as nothing more than an illusion created by the interplay of sunlight and shadows, a clever trick of light that fooled the eye. Yet the story did not end there. A second image catalogued as frame 70 or 13 captured the same face from a different angle. 35 orbits of Viking later, with the sun casting its light differently across the terrain. This discovery was made independently by two computer engineers, Vincent Dietro and Gregory Molinar, who were working at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. While examining archived NASA images, they uncovered the two misfiled frames, Viking 035A72 and 70AA13, revealing the face from two distinct perspectives. These images had resolutions of approximately 50 megapixels per pixel, far finer than many of the other images from that era, providing a clearer view of the enigmatic feature. For over 2 decades after the Viking images were taken, Sidonia remained a subject of speculation and intrigue. During this period, several spacecraft visited Mars, bringing with them more sophisticated imaging technology and providing new insights into the region. NASA's Mars Global Surveyor, which orbited the planet from 1997 to 2006, and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which began operations in 2006, captured much more detailed images of the Martian surface. The European Space Agency also contributed to this endeavor, with its Mars Express probe operational from 2003 to the present day. In contrast to the relatively coarse resolution of the original Viking photographs, these modern instruments offered unprecedented clarity. For instance, images from the Mars Express probe achieved resolutions of 14 m per pixel or finer, allowing scientists to study the terrain in remarkable detail. By combining the data from the high-resolution stereo camera aboard Mars Express and the Mars Orbiter camera on NASA's Global Surveyor, researchers were able to construct a three-dimensional representation of the so-called Martian face. From these analyses, scientists determined that the feature was a natural Martian hill. Its facial appearance, they concluded, was a classic example of a psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive familiar patterns, such as faces in random or ambiguous visual information. NASA's subsequent statements reinforced this interpretation, emphasizing that the hill's face-like qualities were dependent on the viewing angle and the way sunlight illuminated the terrain. In essence, what had seemed like a deliberate design was nothing more than nature's playful shaping of rock and shadow. However, not everyone accepted this conclusion. Among the most vocal defenders of the idea that the face on Mars was an artificial construct was Richard Charles Hoagland, born on April 25, 1945. Hoagland, an American author and former science advisor for CBS News, became a prominent advocate for a range of alternative theories concerning NASA, lost civilizations, and extraterrestrial life. He argued that NASA was deliberately concealing evidence of advanced life on Mars, citing a report commissioned in 1960 by the Brookings Institution. According to Hoagland, the so-called Brookings Report, specifically page 216, recommended that NASA withhold from the public any discoveries of extraterrestrial activity on the Moon, Mars, or Venus to avoid social disruption. Hoagland used this report to support his theory of a NASA cover-up, suggesting that the organization had long hidden the truth about structures on Mars that indicated the presence of a once thriving civilization. Hoagland further expanded his theories with the proposal of what he called hyperdimensional physics, which he claimed was a more complete version of James Clerk Maxwell's original 20 equations, as opposed to the commonly taught Maxwell's equations revised by Oliver Heaviside. In Hoagland's view, the face on Mars was merely the most prominent feature of a larger Sidonian city, a settlement featuring colossal pyramids, mounds, and other structures arranged with deliberate geometric precision. According to him, these formations were remnants of an advanced civilization that had flourished on Mars long before humanity appeared on Earth. Hoagland detailed his ideas in the book Dark Mission, which argued that NASA had knowingly, methodically, and intentionally suppressed evidence of this ancient Martian society from the public for decades, emphasizing that the truth extended not only to Mars, but to the Moon as well, adding further intrigue to his biography. Hoagland claimed involvement in the creation of the Pioneer 10 plaque, a golden Odai's aluminum message attached to NASA's Pioneer 10 spacecraft launched in 1972. This plaque was intended to communicate basic information about humanity and our position in the galaxy to any extraterrestrial intelligence that might encounter the spacecraft. Hoagland asserted that he co-created the plaque with Eric Burgess in 1990, challenging the widely held belief that Carl Schahn received sole credit for the design. This personal involvement, he suggested, underscored his deeper connection to the mysteries of space exploration and his unique perspective on the potential for life beyond Earth. Returning to the enigmatic face of Mars, the ongoing debate highlights the tension between scientific analysis and human imagination. While NASA and most planetary scientists have maintained that the feature is an optical illusion shaped by natural erosion, shadow, and light, independent researchers have continued to scrutinize the area for additional anomalies. Surrounding the mesa, they have reported other formations that seem to resemble pyramids, fortresses, and structures arranged with suspiciously symmetrical geometry. To these observers, the apparent organization and alignment of the formation suggests not mere chance, but intelligent design, further fueling speculation that Mars may once have hosted a complex civilization capable of creating monumental architecture. Even as more advanced imaging has been collected over the years, the Sidonia region retains a unique place in both scientific and popular culture. The original Viking images, now decades old, sparked an enduring fascination with Mars, bridging the gap between rigorous planetary science and the human imagination's fascination with mysteries of life beyond Earth. The interplay of shadow, light, and perspective, combined with the sheer scale of the Sidonian Mia, demonstrates how natural formations can evoke profound psychological and cultural responses. The saga of the Martian face continues to inspire debate about the nature of perception, the limits of scientific interpretation, and the possibility that Mars once held secrets now lost to time. The story also highlights the evolving capabilities of space technology. From the grainy 50-megapixel images captured by Viking 1 to the finely detailed 14M resolution photographs obtained from Mars Express, humanity's tools for exploring Mars have grown dramatically more powerful, allowing for ever more precise mapping and analysis of the planet's surface. In the earliest days of human civilization, in the vast lands between the rivers we now call the Tigris and the Euphrates, ancient Mesopotamian peoples told stories that have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. These stories, recorded on clay tablets and preserved through the careful hands of scribes, spoke of mighty beings who came down from the heavens. They were described as gods, creators, and masters of life itself, figures who held knowledge far beyond that of ordinary humans. These beings were known as the Anunnaki, a name that echoed through the myths and legends of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. The texts attributed to them extraordinary powers. They were said to have descended from the sky to shape the early lives of humans, to guide, instruct, and sometimes even manipulate the path of humankind according to their own designs. They were not merely observers of humanity, but active participants in its formation, wielding skills that were beyond mortal comprehension. In modern times, this ancient mythology has been revisited through new lenses, blending history, archaeology, and speculative interpretations. One of the most well-known modern interpreters of the Anunnaki is Zecharia Sitchin, an author whose ideas sparked both intrigue and controversy. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki were not supernatural gods at all, but rather extraterrestrial visitors from a distant mysterious planet called Nibiru. This planet, he suggested, is part of our solar system, yet it moves in an extremely elongated orbit, visiting the inner planets only every few thousand years. Nibiru, he proposed, is not merely a celestial body, but the home world of an advanced species with knowledge and technology, far surpassing anything humans had at the time. Sitchin's theories suggest that these extraterrestrial beings came to Earth thousands of years ago for very practical reasons. Unlike the divine beings of mythology who act out of spiritual or moral purposes, the Anunnaki were here primarily to mine valuable resources, especially gold. Gold, according to these theories, was not just a material of wealth or decoration, but a resource crucial for the survival of their civilization, or for technological purposes that humans could scarcely understand. However, mining such vast quantities of gold required labor, and it is here that Sitchin makes one of his most controversial claims. The Anunnaki allegedly engineered humans to serve as workers. According to this line of thought, modern humans were created or genetically modified to be a labor force capable of sustaining the mining operations that these extraterrestrial visitors undertook. In other words, humanity itself may have originated as a project, a carefully crafted creation designed to meet the needs of beings from another world. Interestingly, these ancient extraterrestrial theories intersect with modern human endeavors to reach and inhabit other worlds, particularly our own moon and the planet Mars. For decades, scientists and engineers have studied the feasibility of establishing human colonies beyond Earth. On the moon, projects have long been envisioned to sustain life, explore resources, and perhaps even develop permanent settlements. Achieving this, however, is no small feat. The moon lacks a breathable atmosphere, has extreme temperature swings, and receives frequent meteorite impacts, making life there challenging. Yet studies show that with careful planning, it is possible to create habitats that support human life using technology to generate air, water, and energy. Mars presents an even greater challenge. Unlike the moon, which is relatively close to Earth, resupplying a colony on Mars would be far more difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. The planet is millions of kilometers away, and spacecraft would take months to travel there. Despite these challenges, scientists have found that Mars is not entirely inhospitable. Vital resources necessary for human survival are present on the planet. Water exists in the form of ice at the poles and as traces of vapor in the atmosphere. The soil contains minerals that could be used to grow food, and with the right technology, humans could potentially live off the land, extracting air, water, and energy directly from the Martian environment. The idea that humans could settle on Mars is no longer science fiction. It is considered entirely feasible, provided the right infrastructure is in place. What makes Mars especially intriguing is its history. Today it appears as a cold, dry, and largely barren world covered in rust-colored dust and marked by vast deserts and frozen plains. It is a planet that at first glance seems inhospitable to life. Yet geological evidence paints a different picture of the past. Not so long ago in the timeline of planets, Mars was a much warmer and wetter place. Rivers carved valleys into its surface, lakes filled basins, and oceans may have dotted its landscape. The skies could have been blue and occasionally cloudy, with seasons that were far more temperate than they are now. There is even the tantalizing possibility that simple forms of life, perhaps plants or microorganisms, once thrived on the planet. Studies of Martian climate suggest that the planet is currently in the grip of an ice age. Similar to the ice ages experienced on Earth, Mars has periods of extreme cold interspersed with shorter intervals of relative warmth. Its climate is not identical to Earth's, however, because Mars has a larger orbit around the Sun and a greater tilt of its axis. The swings between warm and cold periods are more severe. Zechariah Sitchin explains that much like Earth, Mars undergoes cycles of ice and warmth. On Earth, these cycles influence seasons, weather patterns, and the advance and retreat of glaciers. On Mars, the effect is even more dramatic. Scientists believe that these cycles, which last roughly 50,000 years each, dictate the long-term climate of the planet. When the next warm period or interglacial occurs on Mars, water will flow freely once again. The planet will experience milder seasons, and its atmosphere may become more suitable for human habitation than it is today. Determining the timing of past interglacial periods is critical for understanding Mars' history. Evidence suggests that the last warm period was not exceedingly distant, because otherwise the constant dust storms that sweep across the Martian surface would have erased much of the physical evidence of rivers, lakes, and ocean shorelines. The presence of water vapor in the atmosphere today also indicates that the planet has not been completely dry for millennia. Even the thin, seemingly inhospitable atmosphere contains resources that could support life. Water vapor can be condensed and collected, and the presence of oxygen hinted at by the reddish-rusty color of the soil, which comes from iron oxidation, suggests that breathing and combustion are possible with appropriate technology. Long before modern theories emerged, astronomers speculated about the possibility of life on Mars. Before the famous writer Parallel wrote about canals on the Martian surface in the late 19th century, many scientists had already wondered if the planet might be home to intelligent beings. Observations of Martian landscapes, its polar ice caps, and seasonal color changes led some to imagine a civilization adapted to the planet's environment. In 1871, for example, astronomer Ellis Colbert conducted studies of the stars and planets and suggested that Mars could be suitable for rational beings, similar to humans. He reasoned that the planet's extended habitable period and cooler climate might encourage intelligence and technological innovation. Colbert drew upon contemporary anthropological ideas, which, although now discredited, claimed that human societies in colder climates became more inventive and advanced because they were forced to solve challenges posed by harsh winters. Applying this logic to Mars, he speculated that a civilization there might be even more advanced than our own. These ideas, blending science and speculation, eventually found their way into popular imagination and fiction. The concept of technologically advanced Martians visiting or attacking Earth became a central theme in literature, most famously in H.G. Wells' book, The War of the Worlds. In this story, alien invaders, sometimes described as squid-like creatures wearing mechanical suits, descend upon Earth to conquer and devastate humanity. While fictional, Wells's narrative reflects a fascination with extraterrestrial intelligence, the possibility of life on Mars, and the consequences of contact between civilizations of different technological levels. This interplay between scientific curiosity and imaginative storytelling has continued to shape human perceptions of Mars, influencing not only fiction, but also scientific inquiry and even speculative theories about ancient visitors from space. Thus, the narrative of Mars, the Anunnaki, and human exploration is intertwined in multiple layers. The ancient texts describe gods descending from the sky, shaping humanity and guiding civilization. Modern interpretations suggest these beings were visitors from another world, mining precious resources and experimenting with life on Earth. Meanwhile, contemporary science and engineering explore humanity's potential to follow in these hypothetical footsteps, establishing colonies on the Moon and Mars, harnessing planetary resources, and learning to survive in environments that are harsh and alien. Mars itself becomes a mirror for human imagination, a canvas upon which myths, theories, and scientific studies converge. The planet's history, as revealed through geology and climate studies, offers both caution and hope. Its past warmth and flowing water suggest that habitable conditions are possible, while its current cold and dry state demonstrates the challenges that await anyone who would attempt to settle there. The atmosphere, though thin and seemingly toxic, contains water and oxygen, hinting that with technology and ingenuity, humans might indeed live off the land. An American astronomer once wrote a lesser-known, yet surprisingly popular follow-up story about a Martian attack. In this tale called Edison's Conquest of Mars, the famous inventor Thomas Edison takes the lead in fighting back against the Martians, taking the battle right to their planet. But before we get too caught up in science fiction, let's return to Zecharia Sitchin's theories about the Anunnaki and their presence on Mars as a possible extraterrestrial civilization. Mr. Sitchin presents many photographs of Mars, including images of its pyramids, the famous face on the surface, and other strange formations. He also shares the opinions of several experts who have studied these images. According to Sitchin, when the NASA scientist first examined the photograph of the Martian face sent by the Viking 1 orbiter on the 25th of July 1976, he was reportedly stunned. The story goes that he almost fell out of his chair, exclaiming something along the lines of, "Oh my God," or other expressions of sheer amazement. Despite this initial shock, the photograph was simply filed away along with thousands of other images from the Viking mission. The reason given was that the resemblance to a human face was considered nothing more than an optical illusion, just a play of light and shadows over a rock formation sculpted by natural forces like wind and water erosion. 3 years later, in 1979, Vincent Dietro, an electrical engineer and imaging specialist, remembered seeing the face in a popular magazine. Curious, he decided to search through the archives of the National Space Science Data Center. There, he finally came face-to-face with the Martian image. Intrigued by the fact that the photo had been quietly stored under a caption hinting at the existence of a head that many had long denied, DPRO teamed up with Greg Molina, a computer scientist at Lockheed. Together, they began a determined search for the original NASA image. Their efforts revealed something remarkable. They discovered not just one, but 2 images of the Martian face. The second, less known, was recorded as Image 070, A13 Plate F. Through their careful investigation, De Pietra and Molinar brought new attention to a mysterious feature on Mars that had quietly waited for decades to be studied more closely. After the first startling image of what seemed to be a colossal human-like face on Mars emerged from the Viking 1 spacecraft in the mid-1970s, curiosity and speculation about this unusual landform only grew. Scientists and enthusiasts alike began